Hello everyone, welcome to my Melis channel. I would like to present Cranford Elizabeth Gaskell. Cranford. In Cranford, nobody is very rich, but you must not talk about being poor, indeed not. That would be a very vulgar thing to do, and in Cranford, it's important not to be vulgar. At the Honorable Mrs. Jamison's evening parties, there is only thin bread and butter. Expensive food would be vulgar, and Mrs. Deborah Jackins is extremely cross when Miss Jessie Brown talks openly about her shopkeeper anger. An anger in trade. What horror! The rules of society were different 150 years ago, but people stay the same. The ladies of Cranford are just like people in any age. They can be sad, happy, proud, brave, angry, jealous, and very kind. One dear gentle Miss Maddie is in trouble. Everybody wants to help her. And though there are many sadnesses in Miss Maddie's life, there is always very happy surprise waiting for her. Cranford, Stage 4, 1,400 headwords. Retold by Kate Mattock, Oxford University Press. Chapter 1, Our Society. The first thing to say is that Cranford is held by the ladies. They rank all the best houses if a married couple comes to live in the town, and the gentleman soon disappears from sight. He is either frightened away by being the only man at the Cranford evening parties, or he is at his business or weak in trample, frantic minds away by train. Anyway, what's there for a gentleman to do in Cranford? The town already has a doctor, and the ladies manage everything else perfectly well themselves. They keep the gardens tidy and their maid servants busy. They have opinions on every important matter without troubling themselves with unnecessary reasons or arguments. They know exactly what everyone in the town is doing. They are kind to the poor, usually very kind and friendly to each other. A man, as one of them said to me once, is terribly in the way in the house. The Cranford ladies are not fashionable, and they prefer the old ways. When I lived there, they had exact rules for visiting, which they explained more seriously to any young people who came to stay. Our friends have asked how you are, my dear, after your journey. They are sure to call on you the day after tomorrow, so be ready to receive them from 12 o'clock. From 12 to 3 are our calling hours. Then, after the friends had called, always return a call within 3 days, my dear, and never stay longer than a quarter of an hour. The result of this rule, of course, was that nothing interesting was ever discussed. They talk about things like the weather and left the right time. One or two of the Cranford ladies were poor, I imagine, but they tried to hide it, and the others kindly helped. One Mrs. Forrester gave a party, and her little maid had to get the tea tray from under the sofa on which we sat. Everyone just went on talking. And when Mrs. Forrester pretended she did not know what cakes were on the tray, no one looked surprised. But we knew, and she knew that we knew, and we knew that she knew that we knew that she had made the cakes herself that morning. In fact, the Cranfordians thought it was vulgar, a favorite word to give anything expensive to keep. Expensive to eat or drink at their evening parties. Thin bread and butter was all that the Honorable Mrs. Jamieson gave. She was related to late Lord Glanmary. Yes, spending money was always vulgar, and we certainly did not tell anyone that we had very little to spend. So I shall never forget the horror when old army captain came to live in Cranford and spoke openly about being poor. In the street, the ladies were already rather cross about the arrival of a gentleman, and even more cross that he was going to walk for a new railway near the town. If, as well as being a man and walking for the awful railway, Captain Brown was going to talk about being poor, then nobody must speak to him. I was surprised, therefore, when I visited the town a year after the captain arrived, to discover that he had made himself very popular. My own friends had been strongly against calling on him, but now they welcomed him into their house even before 12 o'clock in the morning. He had been friendly and sensible, thought the Cranford ladies had been poor, and lest his helpfulness had won him place in their hearts. Captain Brown was living with his 2 daughters in a small house on the edge of the town. He was probably over 60 at this time, though he looked younger. In fact, Miss Brown, his elder daughter, looked almost as old as he did. She was only about 40, but her face was white and tired. Miss Jessie Brown was 10 years younger and 20 times prettier. Her face was round and had dimples. Miss Jackins once said, when she was annoyed with Captain Brown for a reason I'll explain later, that it was time Miss Jessie stopped having dimples and looking like a child. There was indeed something childish about the way she looked, but I liked her face. So did everybody, and I do not think she could prevent the dimples. I first saw the Brown family together in Cranford Church. The captain sang loudly and happily, and when we came out, he smiled at everyone and patiently helped Miss Brown with her umbrella. I wonder what the Cranford ladies did with him at their card parties. We had often been glad in the past that there were no gentlemen to worry about. Indeed, we had almost persuaded ourselves that it was vulgar to be a man. So now, when Miss Deborah Jackins, with whom I was staying, gave a party for me, invited the Browns, I wonder how the evening would go. It was the 3rd week of November, so it was dark by 4 o'clock. The card tables were arranged. Candles, clean parts of cards, counters and clean beds of cards were put on each one. The fire was lit. The maid was giving final orders, and there we stood in our best dresses, ready to light the candles as soon as the first person knocked the door. The Browns arrived. 23 were on the tables. The captain took immediate care of all the ladies, passing round cups and bread and butter. He was clearly a favorite, but all the time he kept an eye on his elder daughter, a sick woman, I was sure. Miss Jessie seemed almost as popular as her father. She talked to those not playing cards, and later she sang while Miss Jackins beat time to the music. It was good of Miss Jackins to do this, because she had been very much annoyed Miss Jessie a little earlier. My mother's brother, Miss Jessie had said to Miss Pole, is a shopkeeper in Edinburgh, an uncle in trade. Oh dear, the Honorable Mrs. Jamieson was sitting at the nearest card table. Miss Jackins had coughed loudly to prevent her hearing the troubling words. But Miss Jessie had happily repeated them, telling Miss Poole that her uncle sold the best knitting wool in Edinburgh. So I say again, it was good of Miss Jackins to beat time to her song. At 9:15, when the trains came back with a little more food, there was conversation. After a while, Captain Brown began to talk about books. "Have you seen any of the Pickwick papers?" he asked. It was 1836 and Mr. Dickens' news book was appearing mouth by mouth. "Have you seen any of the Pickwick papers?" he asked. It was 1836 and Mr. Dickens' news book was appearing mouth by mouth. "Yes, I have," answered Miss Jackins. Miss Jackins was the daughter of the past rector of Cranford Church, and having his library of church books and sermons, she considered that she knew about books of all kinds. "And what do you think of them?" asked the captain enthusiastically. "Aren't they good? Aren't they good?" "Not as good as Dr. Johnson," replied Miss Jackins, "but perhaps your man is young. If he copies the style of great doctor, he may succeed." "But it's quite different thing, my dear madam," cried Captain Brown. "But it's quite different thing, my dear madam," cried Captain Brown. "Let me just read you something from this month's paper." The Pickwick story he read was very amusing one about a party in bed. Miss Jackins did not smile. She sent me a fetch Dr. Johnson's Rasselas and read us a slowly conversation full of long words between Rasselas and his teacher. "Now you understand," she said grandly as she put the book down. "Why I prefer Dr. Johnson as a writer. Beginners should copy his style. I did when I began to write letters. Your favorite should do the same. I hope he won't copy anything so self-important," said Captain Brown. He was sorry later for what he had said and stood near Miss Jackins' armchair, trying to please her, but she did not give in. The next day, she said what she thought of Miss Jessie Dimples.